So we've already had 2 head coaching hirings made official this NFL offseason, even though it's still technically the season going on. You get what I'm saying here. The Jacksonville Jaguars made the big splashy hiring, getting Urban Meyer, and we will see how his transition from the college to pro game goes. And then the Jets were able to beat, I'm sure, other suitors that were very interested, and they landed their man, and that is San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. And, you can check out my thoughts on both of those hirings on this channel. I will put the links to those videos actually in the description box below, but love the hiring of Robert Saleh for the Jets. Unsure about the Urban Meyer one. We're going to have to see how that goes. And I will admit again, when you talk about these head coaching hires, who knows how they work out? Sometimes you think the ones that are genius decisions and genius hires and genius moves flat out roll bust. Like either that head coach is in over his head, or the general manager that he reports to or is in charge of putting together the team absolutely stinks. So a lot of things can go wrong. Like, there's no such thing as a sure thing when it comes to you hiring these guys. You're projecting, you're predicting, you're hoping, wishing, and praying that they become what you think that they become based off of their track records as coordinators or positional coaches, what they've told you in their interviews, etc. Which brings me to the Atlanta Falcons, who have made their decision on who's going to be their next head coach. And it's going to be Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. And I find this to be an interesting hire. And here's why. For the Falcons, their defense, again, this season was bad. Like, really, really, really bad. So I find it interesting that the head guy that they bring in is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. When you would think that the defense would be the focus, that the defense is the place that needs the most attention, that the defense is what's broken on this team. And yeah, I would agree that all of that is absolutely true. But you also just got done with a defensive-minded head coach in Dan Quinn, and then his replacement, Raheem Morris, who took over as interim guy, and your defense still stunk. You get what I'm saying? Like, you had guys that were supposed to know the defensive side of the ball there. You had a guy as the head coach who was supposed to know and understand the defensive side of the ball there, and clearly wasn't getting the job done. Clearly didn't know what he was doing. That might be harsh, but when you say that, you look at the results, and that is an indication that they're just not getting the job done. They just don't know what to do. So going out there and hiring some new defensive coordinator from another team to be your head coach that replaces Dan Quinn might not be the right formula. That's fair enough. And that certainly makes sense. You could also make the argument that you go out into the marketplace when you're looking for a head coach, you go and look for the guy that you feel is going to be the best fit, period. Regardless of offense, regardless of defense, regardless of what they've been a part of, you want to look at them and you want to feel like they're the right guy for you. And you worry about some of the other pieces later. And that certainly makes sense as well. It does. So if the Atlanta Falcons went out there on the open market and felt like Arthur Smith was the right man for the job, if Arthur Smith was the best fit for them, then I applaud them for being relatively quick and decisive in making this hiring. Smith was coaching in the playoffs just this last weekend for the Titans against the Ravens. So clearly, they liked what they heard. Clearly, they probably had him in mind for a little while. And I will say, whether it works out or not for any of these hires, 'tis better to be quick and decisive and confident in your action and decisions that you make, instead of kind of wishy-washy or unsure of unable to make a decision. Because when you're indecisive, you're lacking in confidence, you're not sure of what you're going to do, that's when you make your biggest mistakes. Now, who knows if Arthur Smith hiring him will be a mistake or not? You could look at the way that Dan Quinn's tenure ended and say it was a mistake, but man, the early part of his tenure certainly looked good. I mean, this was a team that halfway through the third quarter of the Super Bowl was up 28-3. Like, imagine if the Falcons had actually held on and won that game. Like, the league would be different, and certainly the Falcons organization would be different. But I look at Arthur Smith, and I think this is an interesting hire. Because when you look at what he did in Tennessee as their offensive coordinator the past 2 years, he did some really, really good work. Like, Ryan Tannehill had a career revitalization, a career resurgence under him. There is no question about that. I still don't think that Tannehill is outstanding, but he became good, pretty good, depending on the circumstance of what he was asked to do. But you could certainly tell, like, you take Tannehill working under Adam Gase and see the regression and stagnation there, and you bring Tannehill to Tennessee and the 2 years of work under Arthur Smith. There is a clear and present difference between those two players. There absolutely is. So that, to me, is a great reflection of the offensive coordinator. You look at Derrick Henry. He's had the 2 best seasons of his career the past 2 years with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. Derrick Henry just coming off of a 2,000-yard season. So you look at Arthur Smith and you say, yeah, running the ball in today's game is not the most important thing, but he was able to work with the talent that he had. He was able to work with the strengths that he had on the offensive side of the ball and get the most out of them, and got a 2,000-yard season out of Derrick Henry, which was key to them making it back to the playoffs this year. And then you look at receivers like Corey Davis, seems like he's kind of started to figure it out. A.J. Brown's had a great first 2 years to his NFL career. Jonnu Smith has become a nice weapon in that Titans passing game. Like, you look at that Titans offense and you look at what they've done under Arthur Smith's leadership the last 2 years, you say, you know what? Yeah, he's done pretty good work. And then when you throw in the fact that, the trend for a lot of these teams is they want to go younger at the head coach position, and they want to find their next Sean McVay, or they want to find their next Matt LaFleur, or they want to find their next whoever. They want to find these younger guys that they could bring in and have around for a long time. Well, the son of the founder of FedEx, you look at Arthur Smith, he's talking about, 39 years old, I think he turns in May, or he turned in May. Like, this is a young guy. So he certainly fits that bill. But, even in spite of that, like, if you're an NFL team, like, the age really shouldn't matter that much. If a guy's 60 or a guy's 40, like, can he coach or not? Is he the type of guy that you feel confident in that you could win a championship with in a 4 to 5 year window? Because that's what it's all about. You're not worried about the 10, 15, 20-year plan. Frankly, you're worried about the 2 to 3 year plan, but you're really worried about the 4 to 5 year outlook. And that's what matters most. And is Arthur Smith the type of guy that you can do that with? Well, time will tell. But if you look just based off of what he did offensively with the Titans the last 2 years, you would say he was at least confident and competent in his role, which matters, which means he checks a lot of the boxes. Now you bring him into a situation where I think the real interesting thought is going to be, was he brought in to work with Matt Ryan and kind of remold and remake and reshape this offense a little bit, especially get the ground game going so it'll take some pressure off of Matt Ryan? Maybe. Was he brought in for Atlanta, sitting there right now at pick 4 in the draft, to draft a new quarterback so you start preparing yourself for life after Matt Ryan? Possibly. Like, if they went on the defensive side here and they hired some defensive coordinator, I might be more confident that Matt Ryan's going to finish out his career in Atlanta. The fact that they went with Arthur Smith here really has me 50-50 on whether Matt Ryan's going to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons in 2022, and even potentially 2021. Who knows how this offseason is going to play out? Like, we can expect a lot of turmoil, a lot of craziness when it comes to the draft, and it comes to quarterbacks being available on the trade market. So who knows what could happen? But I think either way, Arthur Smith makes sense and is a solid choice, because he's either A, going to, like I said, help this team be able to better run the ball and better balance out their offensive attack, which they desperately need, because, this is not a dig or diss on Matt Ryan, but this team has too often put too much on Matt Ryan's shoulders, like he's an Aaron Rodgers or a Patrick Mahomes, and he's not that type of guy. He's a franchise guy. I don't dismiss that. But elite, he's not an elite guy. He just isn't. Matty Ice, a very good player. He's been the franchise guy, face of that franchise for over a decade in Atlanta. So if you're going to keep him, you have to figure out how to better utilize Matt Ryan, how to better pick and choose your spots, and get some goddamn balance on your team. Because also, balancing out your offense better and being able to run the ball better will help your defense out as well. That certainly makes sense why he's brought in. Or same thing if you draft a rookie quarterback. And you're thinking about, hey, you're not bringing a rookie quarterback into a situation where if an offensive coordinator works with him and does really well, now the offensive coordinator's gone, you got a defensive-minded head coach, what the hell do you do? At least you can say when you draft a rookie quarterback, you bring him in where the head coach is an offensive guy. If it works, then you don't have a ton of threat of that offensive-minded head coach leaving. It doesn't throw the situation into turmoil. It doesn't sit there and create uncertainty and a lack of continuity for that young quarterback, which can be critically damaging, especially early on in a young quarterback's career. And if you're looking at this from a Falcons standpoint, you feel like you don't have a ton that you need to invest in on the offensive side of the ball. You're a team that's up against it in terms of the salary cap, probably have to make some decisions. You have a lot of work that you need to do on the defensive side. So you bring in Arthur Smith, they kind of remold and reshape and remake the offense, and then you go to work on fixing the defense via the draft and so forth. So yeah, while Arthur Smith's maybe not the biggest, sexiest hire, and who knows whether it will ultimately work out or not, it's really hard to knock them here. Like, Arthur Smith was a top candidate. He was a really hot name, and you saw his offensive coordinator chops. His team was really able to run the ball the last 2 years. They got better play out of Tannehill than he's probably given anybody at any point in time in his career. The Titans had a lot of explosive plays on offense this past season, which for a Falcons team with guys like Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, you certainly would expect them to have a lot of plays, so maybe get even more of them. This is a good, solid hire. That either helps you for the here and now or is helping you play the long-term game for life after Matt Ryan.